Hey everybody. Fuck. God damn it.
God damn it, Tony. This is damn nice.
Welcome to Turn Extension, a supplemental podcast for the Advanced Maneuvers YouTube channel.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Turn Extension. My name is Tony, or Polar Bear Cub on the forums.
Hey everybody, it's Kevin Dowdark on the forums.
Hey everybody, this is Devin, Cutthroat Cure on the forums. So this week we wanted to kind of go with a little bit of an all-over-the-place conversation. So first and foremost, one of the things I wanted to bring up is that currently Privateer Press has been putting out some pretty sweet pictures of the new warlocks that are coming out. So we've gotten to see all four, Horgel, Fianna, Zadesh, and Una. And I'm pretty stoked. They're all looking really good. I really like how the models are looking. What are your guys' thoughts?
I was actually pretty impressed with them. They definitely feel like they're a little bit more of an epic caster because, well, they're now their second versions. But I like the fact that they didn't jump way past where they were. So as an example, the Horgel one, you've got this Horgel and he's swinging this flaming sword and all that stuff. And if you were to take his junior version and put it next to Horgel 2, they definitely still feel very akin to each other, very close to each other. It's not like all of a sudden he's donned on armor and he's got new weapons and he's awesome and amazing. Or he's, all of a sudden he's riding a rhino. It's a very smooth transition from existing to current. I think the junior warcasters also did that kind of same thing where, Malakov looked relatively close to where he was. He just donned on a hat and stood in a goofy pose. Iacos isn't too horribly, he's just got more cloaks on. He went more emo. So I was pretty impressed with that part.
I really enjoy him. I think by far my favorite one, and it could just be the paint job, is I really like Horgel so far. He just looks awesome. The flames on his weapon that is beautiful. And the way how Brendan Roy has painted it is just great. So huh?
Are you a little biased because Brendan was your friend?
So I am a little bit biased on that, but I think the detail on that model is just really nice. But I am a little biased because he did show up to a lot of my tournaments, and he is I appreciate his paint a lot.
Was that actually Brendan Roy, or I thought Dallas Kemp did Horgel?
No,
nope,
Horgel was Brendan.
It's one of his first major ones that he's doing, but no, I have to say that I do know Brendan, but it's fantastic. I'm really happy with it. I think that it has a lot of, it's very dynamic, and I'm glad that I didn't see the anvil, which seemed to be a real pain in the ass on the earlier version of him, but I really like how they have the flames because it does give you a whole lot of ability to play around with different colors. So I'm really excited about the new Horgel.
I do feel like they feel a little bit more dynamic than they were before. It could just be me, but I feel like these are a little more dynamic than even the ones that we had gotten for the Warmachine ones. I don't know. Does anyone else feel that way?
100%.
I think that Privateer Press is definitely stepping up their game and doing a lot more dynamic poses. My only concern is that's a very fine line to stand on. I mean, there's dynamic like, hey, this guy is, in motion and stuff like that. And then there's dynamic where everything's just sprawled all over the place. One of my, as an example, as I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong, is Pyrrhus, the character Flame Guard in Menoth.
Mm-hmm.
He's a super dynamic pose, but he's almost got this, his cape's flying out and he's on his tippy toes and his spear's going out, and it's just I feel, and this is my opinion, I feel like that has gone too far dynamic. You've got this guy who's this, awesome Flame Guard hero, and he's constantly looking like a dancing ballerina on the table.
Okay.
So, I mean, ideally, this, we're all excited about new models. I mean, we all have things that we're working on. Currently right now on my table, I've got a bunch of different projects working on. I'm trying to finish out one of my caterer list, throw in a couple more jacks and stuff into one of my lists. Looking at Mad Dogs, I'm looking to purchase 2 more Mad Dogs because, I mean, they're pretty cool. But I'm kind of hesitant. I've had trepidation about buying them merely because of the new errata and if they're going to like super swing in a direction that's not going to support them. Me having 4 of them, I feel like 4 is still a safe level. I'm not going to horribly, and I'm planning on actually magnetizing their fists so that hopefully, maybe I get 4 berserkers out of it, or heaven forbid 4 ragers. I'm not sure why I would ever run a list with 4 ragers. But I'm working on that. And then every once in a while I pick up a couple models just to kind of paint and work on. Like currently right now I'm painting a Crix Necrotech. And one of the things we kind of were talking about this before we started recording is that there's some models that have been in the line for a long time that really stand up to the test of time. Some of them don't. Like if anyone's ever seen Clown Madrak did not stand the test of time. It was horrible. It really needed a sculpt, and it got one. But this Necrotech's not necessarily a new model, and he's still pretty legit model.
It's pretty good.
Are you working on anything right now?
Well, so for me, I'm really excited. I just got 2 new units and 2 new models in. I just got them in the mail yesterday, actually. So I've got 2 units of the Stormsmith Grenadiers that came in that I'm very excited about. I really am looking forward to, whenever I start playing again, to run them on the table with Haley 1. And also, actually, Haley 2 I think would be really fun as well. The other thing that I got was I got another Gunmage Rifleman. I think it's important to have 2 of them. And what I'm most excited about is I finally got around to getting I can't talk. I finally got around to getting the Prime Axiom, Prime Conflux hard plastic kit. So I'm looking forward to magnetizing that and putting that together finally. I think that's going to be really, really fun to see on the table.
So and you're magnetizing it just because it's the new plastic kits and it's going to be super easy to swap parts in and out, so you don't have to buy another model? Or
so I'm going to be magnetized because one, I do think I did an unboxing, so at some point that unboxing will come out so you can kind of see a little more detail of what's going on with that model. But overall, that model looks like, for the most part, you're building almost 90% of the model itself. So I think the only things you're switching out are the 2 shoulder guns, the center gun that's right above its head, and then its fingers. I think out of all of it, the fingers are probably the most painful to switch out, because either you're switching them out for pincers, if you're going to do the Prime Conflux, or you're going to be switching them out for vices for the Prime Axiom. I think that's really the only pain point, so that's going to really move it. You're going to need to be decent, I think, at putting out magnetizing if you're going to do that model. But for me, I'm not sure if I'm going to use a Prime Conflux too much, and I like the idea of potentially running 2 Prime Axioms every once in a while. So that's why I'm going to do it.
Can you get away with just doing like one? Can you do it with just the fingers? Like, could you glue the fingers on, or are the fingers so dynamically different and rules different that it would pull away and say this is not a Conflux?
I feel like the fingers matter just enough, because it's a clear distinction where with the Prime Axiom, they have his drill ability gives him the ability to where it's a sustained attack because it's a drill, and with the other one it's pincers. So I feel like they do need to be separate. So I don't know how many people would call you on a local tournament, because let's be serious, a lot of people don't know the difference between most models and convergence anyways. But I definitely think if you go to a national tournament, or if you go to a tournament that someone who does go to national conventions and run them frequently, you probably will get called out, and you there could be some type of disagreement.
Something I might suggest is you might actually want to talk to Pokey, because if you can just get, and I know I wouldn't suggest this on most cases, but if you could actually, make a new cast of just the hand part, then you could attach the fingers to that and then just magnetize the 4 hands. So then basically you have, you'll have your original one, because you're still going to meet the conversion policy, because you're going to be well over 50% of the original privateer press model, but you will then, you just attach the fingers and then magnetize the hand.
That's actually a really good idea. That's something I didn't think of at all.
Do you remember when you were building the Prime Axiom, the old kit, if the little hand joint where the fingers go in, was that metal or was that resin?
I believe it's resin.
I was wondering if there's any way of partsing the metal so that you could just, instead of casting, you could just get, an actual privateer press part. I don't think, I could be horribly wrong. I don't think that you, actually, I'm almost 99% sure if you can cast something as long as you're not doing it for the purposes of mass production or for sales. Like if you cast something just because you need it for one thing and then you're done, I don't think that's an issue.
I don't think so either, and that's why the only reason I'm willing to suggest that, just because of the fact that, I understand Privateer Press cannot include that in every orders.
That's true. So yeah, so for me, that's kind of what I'm going to be working on over the next couple weeks. So, what about you, Devin? Are you working on anything?
Currently, I'm working on actually a decent amount of things. I have been playing around with the hobby tutorials, so I've been trying to get some other stuff that's not Privateer Press related done so I could make it look a little bit better. On the other hand, I've been working on Grim Angus. I've been working on, and I've actually been painting a Rorsch, and actually 3 sets of Rorsch and Brine for some friends, and a no quarter limited edition Iris for the Dream Maker.
You heard it here first. There's a new theme list coming out for pigs that allows you to take 3 Rorsch and Brines.
Now that's just been a fluke that so many people asked me to do Rorsch and Brine for them so recently. So Kevin, you had a discussion you wanted to talk about today. How about you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so one of the things that's been going on is Privateer Press announced that in December we would be getting the Troll Bloods army book, or command book, I think they're referring to them now. And then I believe in January we will be getting the command book for Menoth as well. And this was something that kind of when they announced at Lock and Load, they were talking about, we're going to step away from the anthology books. We're going to move towards these command and theme books. And one of the concerns that kind of popped up in the community is the concept of power creep. So for anyone who's never played in something like Warhammer 40K or any of the GW games or anything like that, where there's a staggered release in armies and models, so that it's not like the Privateer Press anthology books where everybody got something to play with. It becomes a scenario where in December, Devin, who plays Trolls, is going to be getting a command book, and in that command book, he's going to be getting theme lists. And the running theory is that theme lists will have a significant power curve to them, to the point where seeing a theme list is probably going to become a lot more common than where you were used to, even in Mark II, where people will be taking theme lists to get benefits from. As an example, if you draw your attention towards stuff like Kingmaker, Kingmaker theme list where you're getting extra models due to solos, or the the Cephalix theme list, where you are getting extra overseers when you get so many amounts. There's a concept behind a extreme benefit or a points benefit, where I'm playing with more points than my opponent because of my theme list. And currently right now, not everybody has theme lists. So there is for better or worse, there is a points imbalance in the game between playing theme list, an army that has theme list, versus playing an army that doesn't. And that's where power creep comes in. If Devin gets the troll list in December, he's theoretically going to have more points to play with, or more power curve as a result of the theme list that he's going to be getting than, say, Pokey will, who doesn't have a Scorn theme list because this Scorn command book hasn't come out. Same goes in January. Menoth players will have it over Pokey and so forth. So is there going to be a conflict? Is there going to be an issue when parts of the community are getting to play with more or new rules, more power, than the other parts of the community? Is that going to cause an imbalance in the game that we hadn't originally felt because we had anthology books where the love was for, quote unquote, sped across the board? So Tony, you kind of had some thoughts on that before.
Yeah, so I think a couple clarifying points first off. I don't think any theme forces for the command books are coming out in December. I think they actually are intended to come out after Lock and Load. So I
Well,
think
aren't
these
there going to be theme forces in the command books, or the command books just merely a fluff piece?
I'm not 100% sure. I thought that it was just going to be fluff piece and hey, here's models and here's one or two new models.
I
But
think they said at Lock and Load that they would be coming out in December. I think that's one of the things they did say during the keynote when we were at Lock and Load is that you could start looking for the theme lists in December because we had even made the note that would give them 6 months of active play before theme lists came out.
okay. So one thing that they did say at least that what the reason why I'm going off of the fact that I don't think anything is going to have a theme list right away is because they had said that Convergence is not going to get a command book, so their theme book is going to come out with the rest of them, which will be after Lock. Now, another thing is that we are actually, I say this about, hey, theme lists. My thought is that they might have said we're getting a bunch of theme lists around December because no quarter is supposed to have a bunch of theme lists in this upcoming no quarter for the November one. So that'll
Well, then
come out.
it's going to have the theme list for because minions aren't going to get a theme book or aren't going to get a command book either. I don't believe they're going to get their theme lists from no quarter.
So do you think it
Same
will
with
be?
Convergence.
So do you think this will just have some more minions? And so do you think that this no quarter will only have minions and convergence in there?
Potentially, yes.
Okay. So I think those are two things to think about, and then the other thing I want to talk about is that we've seen two theme lists so far. We've seen Kingmaker and we've also seen the Cephalic. I don't see
Operation Theater.
Operation Theater. Looking at both of those, I think they're cool and they're dynamic, but when people are playing Mercenaries, I'm not seeing that being a list that is solely being run. That's not one in every single person's list. And to me, I think that looks towards it not being an all-powerful theme list. I think one of the things that when people talk about power creep, now I never played 40K, but what I always heard was whatever the newest book was the most powerful, and I think that is not going to be the case with the Privateer Press books. Yes, you might get something a little bit earlier, but that's also the same thing if we had two character jacks release and mine actually if we have two character jacks shown, and if mine gets released first, is that considered power creep as well? Because I can use my tournament legal before yours.
I mean, theoretically, yes. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people were concerned when it was a scenario. Think back to even in Mark II when Privateer Press was talking about, we're going to release new casters at cons, and any caster that gets released at the con gets to go on to ADR. So there were some factions during ADRs that would have 5 casters and other factions in the ADR who didn't have 5 casters. Now, please don't misconstrue. I don't think that we're to the level of 40K power creep where it was legitimately an entire faction has become so powerful that people's buying habits become, oh, well, I used to play trolls, but the Menoth one just came out, so now I'm going to play my Menoth because they're clearly superior. Or I can't use Scorn as an example because they're a bad example. Circle. I play Circle, but Circle's theme list doesn't come out for another 5 months, and the minion or the troll one just came out. So I'm gonna put aside all of my Circle and I'm gonna play my trolls now because they're clearly superior because they got a theme list. Because then we get into a realm of every time we go to tournaments, there's half the field's trolls because they just came out. I don't think we're going to get to that level, but you can't deny that there is an imbalance between a match when I play with 50 points, or I play with 75 points, and you play with 70, or you play with 83 because your theme list gave you 8 extra points.
Now, what if the new theme lists don't do the points things? I mean, one of the things I enjoyed about, say, like, let's look at Borka, like one of his theme lists, I didn't get a whole bunch of extra points. It just gave me actually, I didn't get any points. Borka's theme list was awesome because, other than like the one with the champions, I could run the I could run boom howlers in faction, which was a cool rule. It gave certain skills to other people, which was cool. I think stuff like that, or like Gristle's, her old theme list, used to allow you to get hoof it on everybody first turn, I will definitely say that I have seen Kingsmaker at the last few tournaments I've run with mercenary players. They were running that as one of their lists. But I have to agree with Kevin. I don't think we're going to see the same thing that we see with Games Workshop, simply on the fact that when it comes to, we already have the basis of the armies here, and other than the erratas, they're not really changing that much, which is the difference between us and 40K, because when 40K releases, it changes the entire faction, or everything changes. You could actually see like an entire unit completely different. I think we're not going to see any issue now that we didn't see in Mark II, just because of the simple fact that we were seeing or releasing theme lists such as evolutionary elementalism and the one, Denegra's really nasty one. What was that called? Body and Soul.
Body and Soul.
And then we'd see entire people buy, maybe not into a whole faction, but basically buy entire lists. And then, a tournament one week would be fine, and then no quarter would come out. And I guarantee you the next month, I would see 2 or 3 people who were not playing that faction now playing that faction. So I think that just the idea of theme lists in general create the power creep. So it's not going to be anything different that we haven't we've already experienced.
So maybe we've already been in a world of power creep, and we just either didn't realize it, or it wasn't to the concerning level like we would with where Games Workshop has its power creep. But I still feel like there's a concern. So let me here we go, Tony. I want to put you into a hypothetical scenario.
God damn it!
Privateer Press is releasing these command books. Okay. So Devin gets his. He's playing Trolls. He gets his in December, and in it, I know this isn't going to happen. So again, we're dealing with a hypothetical scenario. In it, he gets 4 theme lists. He gets Evolution, Elementalism, Ruins of War. I don't know. Pick two more. But he gets these great theme lists that come out with the Troll book, okay. And then Menoth comes along, and Herman gets his command book, and in his he gets something that makes Harby amazing. Sevi 2 goes Ballbreaker. Resnick 2 gets the ability to get a free battle engine. Stuff like this. And he's it becomes a scenario where their theme lists kind of hit the table regularly, and then Privateer releases their schedule, and lo and behold, Signar is the very last theme book. You're going to have to wait 8 months for your new toys to play with. How do you feel?
So I think if that were to happen, where if like someone would be able to get a free battle engine, I would be upset. I mean that's just the fact that if this actually did happen, then yes, I would be upset about it. But my personal feelings on it, I don't think it's going to be that extreme. I think that theme forces are probably going to work as intended, to the fact that they're going to be unique flavoring. And they're going to have some cool advantages, but from what we've seen, at least in Kingmaker, it is extremely restricted. And
Tony, his question to you is how would you feel if your faction was the last faction to get a theme list where everybody else has shiny new toys and new lists to play, and you are the very last one?
Well, all right. So, and what I'm trying to say is that if theme lists were that extreme of a difference, then I'd be upset. But I don't think that's the case.
So if theme lists are tame, everybody else is going to get their theme lists, and you have to wait basically until the end of 2017. You're okay with that?
Yeah. I don't see an issue with that.
I think my thing is I would like to see more theme lists that don't involve point reductions. Like maybe a point reduction, maybe like 1 or 2 points here and there. But I would love to see, I want to see more or less, the theme list for me that always excited me is like Borka's was my favorite, because I got to take an entire unit now in faction, and got to use their cool moves. Or like Madrak's later, his later theme list. I think it was the last theme list released for Trolls before the new edition, where Trollkin Skinners got like that ability to like pick out people and make it easier, and I got a specialized axer and an impaler. Like that to me is the fluffy theme list I want to see, not the I get to play 16 or 8 light beasts because they're all a point cheaper. That's just not that fun for me.
But by that design, even if we go the route of the Winterkin theme list that came out for Madrax, where Skinner's got new abilities, or it was a Hail Hydra where the Arcanist got the first exposure to the new, they can keep stacking on effects and stuff like that. That's power creep. I mean, you're giving somebody more power than they used to have before, and by only doing it to one model, you're theoretically giving somebody a power increase that not everybody else has.
Wouldn't the same be said about new releases? Like if somebody gets a new character Jack before everybody else, isn't that power creep?
It is, but currently in the anthology books, anytime a new character Jack came out, everybody else got some new hotness with it. So it may not have been a flat 1-for-1 where you got this and you got the exact same power level in return, but you did get something. I got this, you got this. Not, I got this, you're fucked for 8 months.
Hey, tell me how that Victor's treating you, since it came out the same time as the other Crix engine.
Boom!
The Victor that no one has?
Exactly.
I
they released in the same book, but because of the release schedule, people have the one for Crix, not the Kraken, but the other one, the Sepulcher. A lot of people have the Sepulcher. You still don't have the Victor, even though they released in the same book. So therefore, power creep already exists.
And this is what's even more funny. The Prime Conflicts didn't even release any new books, and it came out before the Hurricane and the Victor.
Yeah, that thing isn't even out yet, is it?
It's officially out, but it never came out in a book. Yeah. So I think it's a big thing is that if we're talking about power creep for models getting released, is that we still have models that are not released at all, but other models that are. So if that's the same thing for power creep, I think is what Victor it was shown back in Mark II, so it's probably been a year now, just about, maybe over a year, because I feel like it was shown 2 Junes ago. So it might be, yeah, it's probably over a year at this point that that the model was that the book has come out and it's still not released. So you can't use it in any official tournament.
So basically the answer to the question of how are we going to deal with power creep is we're going to do what we've always been doing, because power creep's been here. It wasn't as blatantly exposed because we were hiding under the guise of an anthology book where everybody got something.
Exactly, yeah. Because I think that's the thing. I think that they've been doing it all along. I mean, if Privateer Press didn't have such a tiered system of releases, even though they came out with a whole new book, every model wasn't available at that point. So I think that it's been more of a secretive, like, power creep, because we do see things where a new model gets released and, the things tilt. I mean, as we said, like, Convergence is getting both of their both of their Colossals, and Kador still doesn't even have their second one, and it was announced, shown, released in the book earlier. So I mean, I think we have issues like that exist already. I just think that we don't have. I don't feel personally, because that's one of the major reasons I left playing 40K was the extreme power creep. I don't think that we have anything to worry about because of the fact that Privateer Press has done such a good job at staggering it a little bit more, where I've never, sometimes factions are a little bit stronger and things seem real broken, but I mean, it just depends on what kind of tools you use to play against it.
So then whenever we see posts on like Privateer Press forums complaining about power creep and stuff like that, it's not necessarily a discussion of your army is better than mine. It's you get to play with things and I can't.
Basically. Which, I mean, once again, you look at the forums, and I mean, Tony will probably agree with me here because he looks at them more than any of us. You look at anything and you're always going to see the same thing no matter which faction forum you're in, is that somebody else has something that we don't have and we want it, even though their faction doesn't work around that. You know, one of the biggest things is a lot of people complain about tough. Like, oh man, I wish I had more tough units. Man, I wish I had this in my faction. Tough, tough, tough. But that's not what they're based on. Trolls are based around that. And it's just like movement shenanigans was for Circle or, you know, stuff like that. You know, you play the faction because you like that thing. You don't expect that thing in the faction you play.
Okay. I wanted to get the conversation out there because I've seen the conversation, or the I'll call a spade a spade. I've seen the complaint about power creep popping up more and more and more, even now. So now that we actually see what 2 books are coming out, people have something to be like. It's no longer a mystery of who's going to get what. We know Trolls and Menoth are going to be getting it first. The current examples that we have, the 2 themeless that we have, I still have concerns over themeless. I still have concerns that themeless may end up, if they're going to continue the way of Kingmaker and Operation Theater of free points. Because if you really think about it, free points because I took certain models is in a way just a different way of giving out discounts. You know, if I take so many things, I get discounted models. If I take this, I get a free unit, which is discount. I have concerns over the next coming books. I hope that not all of them are just, point sinks. One of the other things is I'm worried about is Privateer Press looking at themeless as a way of fixing models in a game instead of using the errata to do it.
See, I don't have that fear, and it's only because of the fact that I've seen them go out of their way. Like, they did something that they've never done before that I've ever seen in the many years I've played, where they basically said, faction, Scorn, boom, big problem, and they're moving into it. And I mean, I used to feel like they were using the themeless to fix issues that maybe Scorn had in them by releasing things like the Fist of Halak. But now they're basically saying, hey, we're recognizing these issues, as we've said in an earlier cast. We're recognizing these exact issues right here, and therefore we want to fix said issues. And so that, to me, puts a little bit more faith in the fact that they're not using theme forces in that manner.
I hope so. I really, really do.
All right. Any other final thoughts on this topic?
I would like to see what our viewers, I would love to hear what you all have to say about power creep, and your thoughts about maybe your faction. Would you personally like to see, the same question we asked Tony, would you be okay with seeing your personal faction as the last one to get a theme force or a command book? Do you think that we'll see theme forces? What are your thoughts on the discounted points and such? Just give us your general ideas concerning this topic.
All right. So with that being said, let's close out the episode. So I want to thank everybody for listening to another episode of Turn Extension.
Have a good night.
See you guys.